Another day, another big NBA slate here on the new Splash Play NBA channel. Of course, we're going to do what we always do. We're going to look through the entire slate, my projections, Stokastic projections. Then when the time hits, when the clock hits, when it ticks midnight, aka 4:30 p.m., we're going to hop over, check out the prop markets on Unabated. Of course, also look at some sims from Stokastic along the way. Unabated's prop sims, lots of great stuff coming up here. And fun day here. Actually got my first article published on DraftKings Network today. I'm doing basically a couple times a week, do a conditional projections article using Unabated's data to write up basically a situation there. It's going to be important on the slate. So today, talked about Josh Hart, how he'd be affected if he's in or out tonight. Currently questionable right now. So thankfully he was still questionable and the article actually got published. But I don't know. Should I see your byline places, I guess? Let's go game by game here. And honestly, some stuff that's going to look interesting in my data up top here. So Toronto, first game out playing Charlotte. Toronto 109.5 implied points. We'll do the quick run through as we always do here. Starting off the channel here, at least these first few days. And shout out to the chat as well. Appreciate our guy Steven Leibovitz here. Appreciate everybody funneling in at this point. So Toronto, Manuel quickly still doubtful. I expect him not to go today, but doubtful is not out yet. Still not officially ruled out, so keep an eye on that one. If he were ruled in, it would greatly affect everything because his usage rate, his assist rate have been off the charts so far this year. So with no Scotty Barnes out there, Scotty Barnes out for 3 weeks. It turns out his eye injury is actually an orbital bone fracture, but I guess not a terribly serious one. So he'll be out for a few weeks. Quickly be the one to absorb that. He's also out after hurting his crotch area somewhere in there, his tailbone. I heard that a couple days ago. So as a result, you'll get RJ Barrett, Jakob Poeltl projected as two of the top players overall. They're going to be chalk plays here today. 51% ownership on DraftKings, according to Stokastic. 55% ownership as well for Jakob Poeltl. I should put up the Stokastic little button here because I'm using their data. But basically, two players here that are going to pop up in every lineup sim-wise. If you run just an optimizer, if you run the solver optimizer, it'd be the same thing on there. Barrett and Poeltl are going to come up everywhere. Grady Dick, a player who doesn't do a whole lot in situations without the primary ball handler, should get a little bit more work, but I do think him sharing court time with Barrett and Poeltl doesn't make him a much better play. He's got a 22.6 projection for me, 22.5 from Stokastic. Not a great value, not a player I'd really want to force myself to go to here. The one guy, there's a big disagreement between me and Stokastic on, and this is one of the spots where you can make the small sample size stand. You can just go with the great data company that does a much better job than I do as just one guy looking at basketball data and trying to parse things out. Davion Mitchell. So Davion Mitchell last game out. Barnes went out with the injury. Davion Mitchell played all the overtime game for Toronto against Denver, I believe that was. Based on the thing we talked about where if Jokic hits his ceiling, Scotty Barnes probably hits his. That's exactly what happened in that game. The issue is Scotty Barnes couldn't play the overtime, so they had Mitchell in. Mitchell's been playing a good amount of minutes for Toronto, but the weird thing that stood out to me, it's only 65 possessions. Mitchell in those 65 possessions basically has like a 28% usage rate, a 40% assist rate. He's playing like the version of him that's played before for the Kings when there was no De'Aaron Fox, playing the version of himself that played in college. I think Davion Mitchell, if you adjust the rates to affect that, he becomes a player that you can't miss on. If you have the normal rates for him, he's going to look more like this according to Stokastic. So to me, that's one key decision point where it legitimately is a swing of about 13 fantasy points of projection. For me, it'd be closer to 10 to go from Davion Mitchell's normal rates to the elevated rates he's had in court time without Barnes, without Quickly. So Mitchell, Jekyll and Hyde situation perhaps, but one where I think I want to play into probably the positive outcome and see how that goes. Crotch-tacular reason, the crotch-ticular reason. There was a word for it that they had in some of the tweets that went out initially about Quickly getting hurt, but I forget exactly what they referred to as injury. Other guys who are value plays, cusp playable for a tournament. Chris Boucher, certainly a player here if this game hangs in with Charlotte. Boucher could put up some points. Jamal Shed, I don't know how you pronounce his last name. He would be filling as a backup point guard if Davion Mitchell for some reason were chalk, which I don't think he will be because nobody's projecting him like the projection I have for him. They're all closer to this one. For the most part here, I feel like there is not a lot of ownership going to Davion Mitchell, so you should have played that most likely outcome. That said, if you wanted to play Shed or Sheed here, you could do that because he's going to be the one getting the backup point guard minutes behind Mitchell, I would think. Jonathan Mogbo, another player, is going to come up a good amount. He's been rebounding at a good clip, 15% rebound rate, 18% assist rate, 19% usage rate. True shooting pretty good for a big man. Probably not a player you want a ton of, but I think he, much like a Noah Clowney, two players that can come up a little bit relative to their projection and their ownership. I'm getting spam DMs on here. Good. Always want some spam. Your Twitter. Twitter is the fucking worst, though. I know. Everybody says that. It's like a bit, but really, Twitter is the worst. Charlotte on their side. So LaMelo Ball can be big shock, as we talk about a lot here. Some of the football principles that I think sort of crystallized more for me playing NBA since having delved in even more deeply in football in the last few years. For LaMelo Ball, for him to hit this outcome here, where I have him projected a little bit higher than Stokastic, still they have him at 51.1, projecting to be 43% owned, which is a big number on the slate. For LaMelo to have his full run, he basically needs Toronto to stay competitive in this game, which can be hard when you are missing Quickly and Barnes. So it could be logical to play a Raptors bring back or multiple Raptors bring backs with LaMelo. If you're playing LaMelo, like you almost should be going right away with the chalk of Barrett and Pirtle. Keep in mind, though, that this is probably going to be a core part of everybody's builds tonight where they're going to play naturally. A lot of Barrett, a lot of Pirtle, a lot of LaMelo. So part of the way I think you get unique if you think that chalk is going to hit would be playing a Davion Mitchell. But for the most part, like I think don't try to get too cute and play just LaMelo because sure, he can lead a blowout. That could be it. But I think if he doesn't get 4 quarters of run and 4 full quarters of run, probably be hard for him to hit with this price tag coming up. And also, frankly, a few huge box score games that have come up lately. Miles Bridges would be the pivot point to LaMelo. I think if you were to not play him, Bridges at 5% ownership would look pretty good. Projection just a little bit under where you want to see it 5x, but that's what makes these guys sometimes a better tournament play. The equivalent would be a Paolo Banchero the other night. You had a bit of a different situation there where you had Franz Wagner being sick in that game. People knew that going in. Some of our guys, Robert Griffin III, I know got on that one a pretty good volume in the chat. But basically with Bridges, like if you're playing him today, you could play him in the hopes that LaMelo doesn't get there. Maybe Bridges is the one who starts the blowout, puts up a lot of points as he sometimes can do. The projection's close enough here that I think he's an interesting tournament play, even though certainly not a core optimizer play today. Trey Mann, Nick Richards, more important play is Nick Richards I like as a pay down center option. He's not going to be as chalky because the ceiling hasn't been that good lately, but he's one of those guys that could probably hit as well if Toronto sucks today because a lot of misses, shooting a lot of rebounds for Nick Richards. That's how that should go. Shout out Chunk here. Shout out Effect MD. Appreciate you guys tuning in. Of course, it's a growing process here on the Splash Play channel. It's a brand new YouTube channel, so your guys' support does go a long way. Make sure to hit that like button and subscribe here as I show you all the data I try to here every day. All right, so that's Toronto, Charlotte, Lakers, Cleveland. Here we got 110.5 for the Lakers, 115.5 for Cleveland. A lot of players playable on the Lakers side. AD, I think playable, comes up a good amount. The Sims as well, under 10% owned. LeBron under 10% owned as well. Maybe less of a priority play, but he's back in Cleveland. So if you want to give a little bit of a boost for that, it's a competitive game. Certainly him taking a little more usage in that kind of game environment could be the case. Also, does Bronny get some minutes here? I feel like them both in Cleveland. It's probably something that could happen. Austin Reeves, he's playing okay. He's going to be in this game. D'Angelo Russell and Reeves are both questionable. Got upgraded probable throughout the course of the day. So those guys should be going here. Both are pretty decently played options here. Not a lot of ownership going to them, but over 5x value for both, so they're in play. Rui Hachimura, less appealing option out of the group. Usage not that great. For Russell, I at least expect positive regression as shooting. That should make him look better with not a ton of usage. For Rui, he's not rebounding a crazy amount, not having a ton of usage. If he makes the lineup work with dual position eligibility, I think he's a fine play. But besides that, not the greatest in the world. Cleveland on their side, nobody projects that well here. So I would say, again, same thing. If you're playing some Lakers, maybe you would consider a Cleveland bring back just because of the fact that this game gets competitive. Maybe these guys could exceed their projection just enough. Mobley looks the most playable right now. His usage slowly coming down, though, as the season's going on. 23% usage for him. Besides that, Mitchell, tournament option for sure. But the team right now, because of Mobley getting more usage, Garland also putting up a little more usage this year, 26% for him, 27% assist rate. Nobody's really dominating the ball enough to really want to go to as this high tournament upside. And in game 2 against the Lakers, where the pace shouldn't be that high, you see both teams hovering around 100, a little bit lower. For the Cleveland side of things, not really the game environment you want to tackle, I think, on this slate, but competitive game, star players, guys are maybe a little bit too cheap, but projection-wise, doesn't look that good. Boston, Indiana, another game here where the projections don't look that great. Boston theoretically getting a pretty good pace-up matchup here. The Indiana, I think Indiana's starting a little bit slower this year overall. But Jason Tatum, not the best projection for him. 50.6 from Stokastic. I've got him even lower at 47.5. Jaylen Brown, 40.5 for me, 40.5 for Stokastic. Derek White, 33.5 for me, 33.6 for Stokastic. So none of these guys look that great. Hauser as a value play, maybe in a match against Indiana. Pace-up spot. Should maybe give them a little more spacing to pop some threes. But besides that, nothing really to love, I think, on the Boston side. As it seems like it's often the case, really, at least so far this year. Games against Indiana just priced up enough where the guys don't look terribly appealing. Tatum's price tag just a little bit too high. Jaylen Brown's price tag a little bit too high. Maybe it makes these guys better tournament plays, but on this slate, there's so many well-projected plays that it's hard to really love Boston for me. Indiana, 114.3 implied points on their end. I think that Miles Turner looks like a pretty decent play overall, though I believe he's questionable right now as well. Besides that, you can see the usage here for these guys. So like Halliburton, 23% usage so far this year, 23% assist rate. Siakam, 22% usage rate, 27% assist rate. Siakam assisting more this year That's something I've talked about basically in content, I think, with Josh Engelman a few times in the deeper dive. And I'll be doing that stream again today at 5 p.m. So if you want more content and somebody else is not me talking, check that one out coming up in a little bit here. But basically, like when Siakam's in the lineup, he just takes a lot away from Halliburton, and Halliburton's historical stats kind of get thrown out the window. So for Halliburton, I really have a hard time playing him in most formats. If you're going to play him, I guess, against Boston would be one way to do that. But really, just overall, you can kind of see it here. He's just not taking as many shots, not assisting as much, not dominating the ball, and also really shooting poorly to start the year, which going against Boston, probably not the get well spot. Just not a lot of love for Halliburton overall, and I just kind of wanted to talk about it, I guess. Hauser coming off that lower back thing too. That's fine. I mean, if he's healthy, if he's playing, I wouldn't worry about it, but certainly not going to be owned very much. He's only got 0.3% on him. And again, it's a value play. Guys who are going to hit a lot of shots, hit a lot of threes as a value play on a slate where there really isn't great value. I think Hauser is okay in that respect. So I don't know. That's the only reason I brought him up. He's not really a play of note. I don't think I got any of them sim-wise. Rest of Indiana, Andrew Nembhard, a decent value play again. Still not getting a ton of usage. He's assisting better than Halliburton is right now, which, again, a really bad indoctrination on Halliburton and how he's playing to start the year. But Nembhard, not a player I'd prioritize too much, getting good minutes, but 32 minutes, 23.1 projection. We're not talking about the highest fantasy points per minute. Only 0.73 would be the expected fantasy points per minute here. Detroit. So interesting game here where you do have some pretty decent projections on Detroit side going against Philadelphia. Philadelphia, again, no Joel Embiid, no Paul George. Those are the main things to watch out for here. I guess not watch out for, to know in advance of the game. That's basically it. Detroit, though, been a pretty good usage here to start for Cade Cunningham. 34% usage, 40% assist rate. So he's basically taking about 75% of the possessions when he's on the floor. For Jalen Duren, a guy I projected well last year, beginning not as much this year. He looks okay. On a center slate, under 5% owned, he's okay. These guys overall, though, I think under 10% owned, they drop the ownership product of a lineup. Should theoretically be a competitive game. Philadelphia, I mean, frankly, without Embiid, without Paul George, they're not infinitely better than Detroit is with some of the guys they've added, and just, young guys getting a little bit better. So you can make the case to play some Detroit guys. I'm not sure it'll be a priority for me. Got a little Tim Hardaway Jr. as a low-owned option just because he's playable, I guess, at 4,400. Not a player I like, but 32.3 projected minutes for him. So a lot of time expected to go his way. He's not been shooting much. You can see here 14% usage rate, not assisting either. But when he has been shooting, he's been shooting really well. 69% true usage for a guy who shoots some threes. So for Hardaway Jr., again, not a play I like very much, but tournament options. I'm mentioning these guys a little bit more because I did breeze by Zaire Williams yesterday. He ended up being a player that actually would have won a tournament. So trying to be a little more mindful of some of these guys that are not projected plays or to come up a ton, but 7% ownership. Tim Hardaway Jr. maybe works. Philadelphia on their side, Tyrese Maxey would look pretty good to me. I have him projected for 51.3. Stokastic a little bit better at 48.2. Part of the disagreement, I think, and part of why I have Maxey projected higher is that I'm a little bit lower on Andre Drummond. His rates this year for Philadelphia have not been as good. His usage in particular going down. And I'd expect it to maybe level out a little bit more with Oubre, but really, Oubre's kind of getting Paul George-ish usage right now, 26%, or at least what it should be in this offense, whilst Drummond is not getting Joel Embiid level usage. He's not being treated the same way. So I don't know that Drummond is actually the same play in terms of what he's been in the past. Certainly against Detroit, can rack up some rebounds, can make that count a lot. But I think projection-wise, he's going to be a little bit over-owned, a little bit over-projected today. Stokastic has about 29% owned. Drummond going to be a core part of what you get sim-wise. I'm a little bit less into it. Caleb Martin getting 35 minutes projected for him. He's going to come up a good amount in the sims as well. 19% usage, 13% rebound rate. He's fine. Not the most exciting player in the world. Probably has a decent floor, maybe not the most exciting ceiling, but he's playable here. Kelly Oubre playable. I think Philadelphia overall fairly playable. This game, not a bad one to target, even though overall didn't expect the offense to be too great. Again, two teams playing under a 100 pace over here. Atlanta 119.3, Washington 114.3. And guys, bear with me because I'm trying to figure out the pace here. I'm not sure if going game by game is a good one for the full slate ones. Maybe just hop into the sim, but trying to figure out what it is. So please leave me feedback in the comments in the chat as well. What works best for you guys? Hopefully this adds value, but if the sims and just showing you that adds more value, let me know. Trae Young. So he's a player I love today. So Trae Young in court time over the last few years, without DeJounte Murray, without Bogdan Bogdanovic, basically without any of the guys who absorb usage really. Trae Young's been going nuts. He's had, I have the rate on my sheet. I didn't pull it in here. So Trae's had 37.7% usage, 55% assist rate. It's not a small bit of court time either. We're talking about like 200 minutes of court time, averaging 1.6 fantasy points per minute. So I think if you're not playing LaMelo Ball today, I think if you're going to play Jordan Poole chalk, especially trying to target a shootout game here would make sense. Atlanta, 5-point favorite on the road. We did see them just struggle a little bit with Washington the other day. Trae Young in that game too is playing fairly well, but just missing every shot. Today, if he hits those shots, I think he hits the ceiling. So I have him really well projected. Stokastic has him fairly well projected, but under 10% ownership, I think he's a really strong play today. So Trae Young would be one of my stands. He and Davion Mitchell, the two that right now my projections disagree with the most. And to be clear, I like LaMelo Ball, but I think trying to find ways to play Trae Young and LaMelo is something I'm going to do with some lineups today. Besides that, Jalen Johnson, just a little bit lower projected than I think it'll look like after his last game. No issue with Jalen Johnson overall, but 11% ownership. I think people will chase that last performance against Washington. Maybe he does it again, but I'd rather try the Trae Young side given how much better I've projected than the market right now. And Jalen Johnson, I'm a little bit lower on. Still a fine projection, but it's not enough to like force my way to. Clint Capella, with having Okonkwo back in, it's not going to be good for him. For Capella, he kind of busted his chalk. I guess he was fine enough, but wasn't great the other night. For Okonkwo being back in, though, he does take some usage. Not that much on the year, though, only 19%. Capella, just split time, not really playable with the salary coming up. Feels like he was priced for Okonkwo not to go again. DeAndre Hunter, questionable right now. Another key play. If he's out, Reza Shea will look better. Jalen Johnson will look better. David Roddy will also look better. A lot of guys will look better. Potentially, I think Garrison Matthews will look better, though he honestly should have more minutes right now than 23.8, I feel like. But basically, a lot more wing minutes to go around if Hunter doesn't play, so that's a key one to watch. Hunter also a valid play on his own, 17.3% ownership for him. And these other guys, historically, when a lot of the top usage guys from Atlanta aren't in, Hunter does play a little bit better, so Hunter, a valid play today, even though Trae Young, by far my favorite play, as you can guess from what you're seeing here. On Washington side, Jordan Poole's been crushing it. So Jordan Poole, another guy, in minutes without Kyle Kuzma, has been absolutely putting up the shots at a high level. So basically for Jordan Poole, and with how well he's been shooting on this year, this really does matter. Jordan Poole's had a 34% usage rate, 39% assist rate, actually almost a 35% usage rate in court time without Kuzma and Tyus Jones over the last 2 seasons. So in this game, to me, trying to target the huge upside potentially, given this total, given the fact that Trae Young's not going to be that highly owned, Jordan Poole will be in about a third of lineups tonight, it looks like. I think Poole and Young paired together looks pretty good for tournaments tonight. So Jordan Poole, I think a priority play. Certainly he's due, I think, to have some negative regression in shooting. He's not going to shoot 73% true shooting today, but assisting more, still shooting enough, getting more usage and maybe being less efficient with it. I think that's all fine for Jordan Poole. And frankly, too, eyeball test for Jordan Poole. I feel like it looks like a different player this year. I don't know what he's doing differently. It feels like he's taking it more seriously. And I don't know. I've been really impressed with Jordan Poole so far. Not even Kuzma out there basically vacates about 50% of the possessions while he's out there because of how much he assists, how much usage he puts up. It's a lot to go around for Washington today. And I think for them to stay in this game, Jordan Poole probably has to do something. Bilal Coulibaly, decent value play. He'll be 30% owned today. He honestly looks kind of like a star. He reminds me a little bit of Benedict Mathurin in the fourth quarter of the last game for the Wizards going against Atlanta. Really liked what I saw from him there. Still think that the usage won't be terribly high. It's not like he's been flashing a ton of usage in court time without Kuzma in the past. So Coulibaly probably gets a ton more minutes. You can see he's projected for 35 here from Stokastic. Not crazy about Coulibaly, but I do think he's a very solid play. Nothing else to really note here. Kaishan George, value play, going to be 20% owned. I feel like he's a little bit trappy in terms of that ownership. He's going to come up easily projection-wise to 27.3 minutes. He also picks up some of the Kuzma minutes for himself as well, but not a player that's been doing a lot. 12% usage, 13% assist rate. He's kind of just out there for the most part, but he's playing the minutes, so minutes are always the thing. New York... Man, are we going to be able to get through this before we got to do the unabated projections? We'll see. New York here, 108.3 implied points. Again, Josh Hart questionable in this one. Wrote it up for DraftKings. It's a really key one because it's going to materially affect all these guys' lineups. Should also affect Miles McBride minutes enough that would make him cusp playable or actually maybe fully playable. So Josh Hart, watch out for that one coming up here if he is ruled in or ruled out. Jalen Brunson looking good enough right now, would look better. Towns' usage has not been that great to start the year. Feels like everybody else is sacrificing besides Jalen Brunson. Brunson's keeping a 34% user rate to start the year, whereas Towns at 19.2%. Bridges just under 20. Josh Hart a little bit over 20. So these guys, for the most part, are kind of deferring to Brunson. So probably levels out a little bit more. But so far to start the year, Towns is being projected like old Towns. I'm not sure he should be based on what the rate data has been so far. Bridges, I got a little bit playing around with lineups as kind of a lower owned tournament option on the wing. So I think he's an okay play, especially if Hart's out. And Anunoby, really not as playable, but still playable enough. over a 5x value. And again, McBride will look a lot better if Josh Hart gets ruled out. And honestly, well, probably not because a point guard shooting guard, but McBride probably picks up a good amount of ownership if Josh Hart does get ruled out. And Ariel Hukporty, I forget how to pronounce his name, but he took some minutes away from Jericho Sims last game, so he's getting a projection now. He's 3K min salary, probably not actually playable. Miami side, nobody you'd really want here. Adebayo could come into a lineup with a 5x value. Terry Rozier, 5x value as well. I do have Adebayo projected better than Stokastic does, so you probably won't get him much with Stokastic. They've got all these guys projected under 5%. Kind of the same thing as last slate with Jimmy Butler, where I advocated for him in a competitive game, potentially getting over 40 fantasy points. I think the same thing for Jimmy Butler here, where he probably gives you 40 again in a competitive game against the Knicks. But does he get a true ceiling? I'm not sure about that. So this game, not the most appealing on the Miami side. The New York side, though, could be very appealing if Josh Hart doesn't play. Brooklyn, 107 implied total for them. Memphis, 119. A lot of ownership going to Dennis Schroeder, who just basically won a slate yesterday. So Schroeder going to be an important play coming up for the most part. I like Schroeder enough. Having Ben Simmons in does change the equation that I'm okay moving away from Schroeder tonight. Actually think Cam Thomas, kind of interesting play. I have him a little bit better projected than Stokastic, but he did bust a somewhat chalk yesterday on a short slate. Going back to these guys and knowing Cam Thomas is really high ceiling if the shots fall the right way. And in game two, Memphis is a pretty high total. So one way to stay in this game is Cam Thomas outperforming a little bit. So I think Cam Thomas, a valid enough play at his salary. Noah Clowney, there's no Nick Claxton in this game. So Noah Clowney busted yesterday's chalk. Unfortunately, I fucked up my lineups last night, right? A good lineup that would have been really working well. But I saw the Noah Clowney news come in while I was bathing Luke, and I'm like, fuck. I just was like, I'm going to shift some stuff around, play Noah Clowney more. Basically, Noah Clowney ended up being a bust, and he also ended up being 30% owned. So he's not going to be 30% owned today. I think playing him today would be a little bit more logical, but the projection's not great. I've got Clowney at 17.8, Stokastic is at 17.7. If he picks up the start, he'll have a better shot at making minutes today just because of the fact that there isn't, Nick Claxton in there. Still no Day'Ron Sharpe as well. Clowney's basically the only true center they have, but they could play Finney Smith. They could do some other stuff there. So Clowney's still not projected for a ton of minutes, but I do think kind of interesting tournament play given how he just bombed. He's been a pretty decent usage, pretty decent rebound rate. It's better than he was last night is what I would say for him. Memphis, you got Ja Morant questionable right now, so that's a key one to watch out for. 25.5 minute projection in for him, so he's not going to come up at an optimizer. Everybody on Memphis, because of Ja Morant being in, projected for under 5% ownership, so not a single guy I'd want to play if Morant does go. If Morant's ruled out, all this opens up. Bane becomes a priority play. Scottie Pippen becomes more of a play again. Santi Aldama seems to get there every single time Ja Morant is out, so nothing looking great right now, but if Morant is out, that could be an important one to really affect things later on in the slate. Orlando, Paolo Banchero went off the other day. Today we have 117 implied points go against a Chicago team that's not playing good defense right now. Banchero projects pretty well again. He'll probably get owned a little bit more in this 13%. People chasing that last game, but it did happen mostly because of Franz Wagner being ill and then basically getting out of the game in the second half. Franz put up, actually, no, that's not true entirely. Paolo put up a lot of his points in the first half. Franz just being ill gave kind of that runway for Paolo to get hot, and then once he was hot, he just kept scoring. The guy I want to point out, though, is Suggs. Suggs, to me, has been playing out of his mind to start the year. He's playing at a 1.3 fantasy point per minute pace, 25% usage, 25% assist rate, shooting his mind out, too, with 67% true usage. So Suggs, one of those players, I think 15% owned. I like him a good amount here. Hard to get him on the slate because of Trae Young, because of guys like LaMelo Ball as well. But I do think that Suggs 5,500, that price tag works. And there's a lot of guys in that 5,500 range. Like, let's say Suggs hits, and let's say my very limited sample size read on Davion Mitchell is right. You're talking about a 10-5 backcourt that could potentially give you, I think, 75 to 80 points out of that backcourt. The issue is, like, you get boat raced by all the, higher dollar point guards. I'm not sure about that. But I like Suggs right now and how he's playing. Wendell Carter, less than to him, but he's an okay center play. Franz Wagner, I'd play him as well. Just coming off the illness. And again, the fact that people are going to go to Banchero probably a little bit more than they should. Chicago doesn't look that great. Josh Giddey, though, functionally playing point guard for them now. 33% assist rate, 23% usage. Have to give credit to my pal, Josh Engelman. He'll be doing the Stokastic Deeper Dive stream with in about half an hour. He's saying that Josh Giddey, he thought, would end up activating a lot of plays, starting the series as overall from the wing. He's been doing that so far. So the assist rate for him coming up is a good sign. His price tag is probably not as high as it could be given the upside he's showing so far. Probably levels out a little bit more with Kobe White and Vooch, I think, in particular, as kind of a big man who can create some assists. But for right now, Giddey looks like the only projectable player here for me. Vooch, these guys, tournament players for sure, but not ones I would really love. I feel like Chicago should lose to Orlando here, but Chicago's playing more competitive than I would think based on the lack of talent they have right now. Your late slate, which only matters not on DraftKings, only on Underdog and FanDuel, so I'll skim through it really fast. Nobody projects that terribly well from here. Wemby, a lot of points. Everybody else in San Antonio, not looking that great. Sohan, even for a late slate, not looking that great. This price tag coming up. Oklahoma, I love everybody here. Shea looks great. Chet Holmgren looks great. Jalen Williams, pretty good value relative to the salary here of $7,300 for the late slate. Jalen Williams also shooting a lot, 27% usage, 24% assist rate to start the year. I think for the late slate for FanDuel, a valid play. Chat would be the most appealing play, I think, for FanDuel. Shea probably a little too high priced on FanDuel. New Orleans, split usage here makes these guys tough. Tried to get New Orleans right yesterday with getting Zion, or was it yesterday? Whatever the other day there was. With Zion and Brandon Ingram, tried to play them both. Felt like Zion dominated the usage more so. Ingram kind of yielded more than it looked like based on historical rate data. Still opportunity for these guys, but they're kind of priced where they should be at $8K. It's $8,500. So these guys probably not going to be the highest play in the world on DraftKings at those salaries, but I think they're still valid enough plays, especially with the Warriors side. Warriors side, talked about yesterday at great length. Podziemski did come through. Moody came through, but it was tough. Hield came through with 19 points in the fourth quarter after playing shittily before that. These guys tonight, still similar projections for all of them. Hield, I would keep highlighting. He's shooting a lot, 29% usage on the year. But Podziemski being the functional point guard is what I thought would happen yesterday, and it did happen. So I think Podziemski really the only one you trust out of all the Golden State guys. It could be getting bumped to the bench. Doesn't affect his minutes projection too much, but certainly doesn't help. And Portland and Clippers here, 105.5 for Portland, 113.5 for the Clippers. Would think Zubac projects incredibly well today relative to the salary, 7K salary, 6.3x value for him. Zubac looks great. And I didn't even mess his rates up or anything either. He just looks good naturally. Hard to have rate data for the Clippers right now, too, with the fact that it's all kind of thrown off till Kawhi comes back in. For Portland's side, DeAndre Ayton looks okay. That's basically it. The Zubac one's the big one. Other Clippers that are playable, I think James Harden playable at his salary, $9,500. Chris Dunn, value play, okay. Amir Coffey, okay. None of those guys I love that much. Let's run a Stokastic sim real fast, guys, and then we'll do some of the unabated stuff, looking at the prop markets. So please hit that like button and subscribe, and let me go over here and generate some contests. We're going to build 5,000 lineups here and have them compete 10,000 times using Stokastic's data. So my Davion Mitchell stuff won't affect this. That said, I did run a Davion Mitchell sim before this, and he was coming up everywhere for me with that elevated projection. So the biggest thing I disagree with today on the slate, I like Davion Mitchell a lot more than it seems like the projection sources do. I get why they don't like it as much as I do, but taking a small sample size and trying to extrapolate on old Davion. With it being Lithuanian Heritage Night in Washington, does impact your exposure on Lithuanian Jonas Valanciunas? Played him the other night when he got the random start. Not smart. Yeah, he didn't play that well. He's also not likely to close games, so that's the tough part for him. Really, and one of the biggest things that I think a lot of these sharper Stokastic basketball guys there, Josh and Shit My Money, had said over the course of time, enough that it beat into my head. You know, you really want guys who are going to close games, even if they're coming off the bench. You want guys who are there in the fourth quarter because that's the biggest chance for them to have the minutes upside you need to win a tournament. So I don't really foresee him having that necessarily, but you certainly can get there. And guys, I think for a new channel, I think we're at a new live viewers record, which is not impressive, but I have to point it out because these little victories at this point count. Please do subscribe down below, hit the like button, leave a comment. Your engagements help me out a bunch here trying to build up an NBA channel. After years focusing on the NFL channel that I've been building, now we got Splash Play NBA every Monday to Friday at 4 p.m. So stay tuned here. Of course, hit the like button, subscribe, and get more of that. Check out Stokastic, 15% off. Link in the description. You can actually now click the links because I verified my ID. YouTube verification now is weird for a new channel. You have to take a video of yourself and turn your head, and that's how they verify you. So I'm verified. I'm a real person. So now you can click the links in the description. And shout out Unabated as well. Would not be able to do the show if it were not thanks to Unabated. So get $30 off their packages. That includes their prop package, which means you can get all their prop data for $53 for per month. So I would get the Unabated NBA one where you get conditional projections from their team. Conditional projections are a great tool. Of course, we'll run the conditional projections video when we get to Unabated in a moment, but that's how it's looking. Let's see what these sims give us. Then we'll go over to Unabated, see what we have there. Let's do it. Appreciate that from Alvin. The show is great. Thanks, big guy. I appreciate it. Again, it's not leaning entirely on the sims, but if you guys want more sim stuff, let me know because I know people do like the sim thing. But Stokastic does a good job showing you all their sim stuff anyway, so I don't want to feel like my data combined may be more helpful. Your top ROI lineups right now. That's true. I am not AI. This is all. Look at this flesh. Look at all this flesh. We got Tyrese Maxey, Jordan Poole, RJ Barrett, Caleb Martin, Jakob Poeltl, Corey Kispert, Kaishan George, and Andre Drummond. So that is a lineup that does not look like the ones I have today. Maxey, again, a good projection on him, though. Looks pretty good. Competitive game. So Maxey, I don't mind. I personally do prefer Trae Young. I personally prefer LaMelo Ball. LaMelo's going to be a lot higher owned, though. So I get why there's a trade-off there, but you're getting Maxey more with these Stokastic Sims. You're also getting Maxey in this one. Maxey, Jordan Poole, RJ Barrett, Jonathan Mogbo, again, good per minute guy playing for the Raptors, should be able to put up some rebounds and points. How many minutes he gets, we'll see. Andre Drummond, Dennis Schroeder, Chris Boucher, another Toronto guy, Jakob Poeltl. So again, a lot of possessions left behind by Scotty Barnes. As a result, you're getting a ton of Toronto guys here with Barrett, Mogbo, Boucher, and Poeltl. Would kind of think that Boucher and Mogbo don't hit together. Same for Poeltl. Like, these guys are all kind of pulling from the same thing. But honestly, so much usage to go around there. It doesn't really matter. Jordan Poole leading the number 3 ROI lineup. Jordan Poole, Corey Kispert, Caleb Martin, Chris Boucher, Andre Drummond, Cade Cunningham, RJ Barrett, and Jakob Poeltl. So Poole coming up in all these so far. This one, we got Jordan Poole. I almost said Jordan Poole. How exotic that Jordan Poole. Jordan Poole, Dennis Schroeder, RJ Barrett, Jonathan Mogbo, Jakob Poeltl, Zaire Williams, Jason Tatum, Andre Drummond. So you're getting Tatum in here. He's definitely a tournament play tonight. People are not going to be playing a lot of Tatum. And in our last one here in the top 5 ROI lineups, you get Poole again, Kispert, Barrett, Mogbo. You are getting a lot more Mogbo than I would have thought. I thought Mogbo was one of those, like, Spags is an idiot plays, but Mogbo coming up a good amount here. Poeltl, Simmons, Banchero, Andre Drummond. Just for reference again for Mogbo, because I do want to make sure we're couching it appropriately. Mogbo projected for 17.8 minutes. He's been a 1.23 fantasy point per minute guy so far this year. I got him today projected for 1.2, so it's not crazy, but he's got to be good for 20 minutes is what you're hoping for Mogbo, and maybe he closes that game somehow, though. How he would close, I'm not really sure. Your overall exposures here on the Stokastic Sim before we hop over to Unabated and sim some props out, build some pick'ems, all that. We got Jakob Poeltl, 68% exposure for him, 64% for Jordan Poole, RJ Barrett, 60%, Drummond 50. So they want you to get more than 2x the field on Drummond. That is where I differ. I think that this might not be the same Drummond. I'm still going to play a good portion of my lineups with Drummond because I could be wrong about it. And Drummond, we just know historically, you give him court time, he does make things work. But with him being at 7K, like, there's real risk to it. So with him being 50% exposure on the Sims, he's going to be played a lot. And if I had to guess, probably more than 20% owned. I think he could get to 30 to 40, to be honest, but probably more like 25, 30. Schroeder, again, shock game yesterday, went off. Think it happens again. 47% for him. Not sure I'd anticipate him going off quite as much today. He's not a priority. I'd rather pay up at point guard, but I think he's a valid play for kind of a middle balanced lineup. Kispert, 43% compared to 19. Mogbo, 43% compared to 12. Caleb Martin, 31% compared to 30, so flat with him. Richards, flat, 24% for each. Kaishan George, 23 and 19. Moore Boucher, 21 compared to 8. Banchero, pretty flat. Most of these flat besides the ones up top. All right, prop time. Let me log in on this tab, and then let me actually switch to tabs as well. Apparently, that's an important part of the process. All right. Over to Unabated. Check out Unabated again. They support the show. They're directly helping me put it on, so thank you to them. Thank you to you guys if you do support them. Link in the description to get $30 off Unabated. They don't give out a lot of promo deals, guys, so I would say take advantage of it if you can. We have the conditional projections here, so let's show you guys this because I've not shown you guys the conditionals yet, and it's exactly what I wrote up today for Josh Hart, so I'm going to do that here. So basically what we could do, let me make sure I'm using the Unabated NBA projections. All right, so we got our conditional ones here. We got all of Heat Knicks for some reason showing up. Basically now we could see projections that have Josh Hart in. So you could sim these out relative to Josh Hart being in. Right now he's questionable. I don't know if there's really EV in simming anything besides Josh Hart himself with him being in. Because basically if you play a prop on Josh Hart being in, it'll get voided if he doesn't play, obviously. But it doesn't look like it would be plus EV to do that. So negative edge on that one. For these Josh Hart props of him being in, you're actually still getting, you know what? You could take Anunoby right now either way. You could take Anunoby 10.4% value on over 19.5 because that's only going to get an easier line overall if you do get Josh Hart out. So it looks good right now with Josh Hart in. If Josh Hart's out, it's going to look substantially better. Now we'll take Josh Hart out and see what it does. So let's refresh that. So Josh Hart out. You can see here now how all of the overs are hitting, and Anunoby, you got 5% extra value. So that's one of the things you could do with Unabated. I think is really cool. The conditional projections made by Justin Fan and his team over there, they do a really good job with it. So The one little edge here, Anunoby, I think honestly take that bet either way because it's only going to get better if Josh Hart's out. It's one of the things you could see every slate for these guys. But let's go overall, see what the top bets are currently for everything. Let's take the conditional stuff off. Just leave it as is. All right. Oh, where are Atlanta's projections moving? Did something happen with Atlanta? Oh, because we don't know if Hunter's playing, right? All right. So no Atlanta projection looks like coming in. Who's the PRA leader for the day? I don't have that number easy. Let me see if I can look at it unabated and see if they have one for you. But fortunately, I used to keep tabs on that, but I don't save it for myself now. I assume you're doing like a leaderboard one. You have to get the top winner or the top overall PRA guy. Best lines right now. So Caleb Martin for points. Over 11.5 points for Caleb Martin to 10.3% EV. I put PrizePicks in the headline today on the video because we're getting so many plus EV bets for PrizePicks. Even if I'm not an affiliate of PrizePicks, it would be me not doing the right thing to not highlight that. You are getting value by watching this video and using unabated tool for PrizePicks. You're getting 10.3% EV. If you take this over 11.5 on PrizePicks, higher over 11.5 on Underdog as well would look pretty good. 10.3% EV for Caleb Martin over 11.5 points. Bilal Koulibaly, the under looks good here. So that's interesting to see. He's going to be played a lot in DFS. King of the Court promo. Okay. Yeah, I'll look in a second here. I'll see if we can pull up their PRAs, but I don't know if I could sort by highest to lowest. Bilal Koulibaly, though, 10% EV, basically, on under 14.5 points, minus 125 odds. You're also getting positive EV on PrizePicks and Underdog. 8% EV on PrizePicks. Not that much on Underdog. Probably wouldn't be inclined to do under 13.5 on Underdog, but it's playable if you're like hard up for some markets to add to pick 'em slip. Drummond over 11.5 points, 9.7% EV based on unabated conditional projections right now, which there's no condition for Drummond, but 9.7% EV on PrizePicks. So another one here. 3 bets you can put to PrizePicks right now that would fit the criteria of what you need. Fontecchio under 6.5 points. 4.5% EV on DraftKings Sportsbook right now. That one's not available on PrizePicks and Underdog because they're biased against Italians. I think it's the only reason I could think of. Tobias Harris, not great value here, plus 1.5. So we're not going to do that one. Let's look at PRAs fast for FF Doom to see if we can find a way to do this. I think I already simmed this. It doesn't give you a full count, unfortunately. It just gives you the full line. Yeah, unfortunately, I don't think I can give you a good answer. For me, I'd probably go Trae Young, but I'm not sure if that's actually accurate relative to the slate. Actually, you know what? I think I have it on one of my tabs. Sorry, this is like a long way to go to try to make FF Doom happy, but that's what I do. I forgot I do have PRAs on one of my pages. So for me, the top PRA play would be, all right, we're going to get to the bottom of this on a screen you can't see. We'll talk more unabated in a second. I try to answer questions if I can. All right, I was right. I would have Trae Young the highest, 46.3. LaMelo number 2, 44.1. SGA number 3, 43.6. Maxey number 4, 42.8. And AD number 5 at 40.5. So there you go. Hey, Tyler here. There we go. Appreciate that. Glad to see you here. Tyler, getting to see some unabated PRAs coming up. Let's see the best lines. So best lines on PRAs. Anthony Black. The star players were coming to play here. If you can get under 13.5 on Underdog Pick'em, that's a 17% EV. Under 13.5 for Anthony Black playing for the Magic tonight. Zach LaVine. I can't believe Anthony Black has an Underdog line. That's insane. I sometimes can't get Jaden Daniels lines on Underdog, but I can get an Anthony Black. Zach LaVine, you're getting 16% EV on under 30.5 PRAs for him. You're getting that bet on PrizePicks, getting an Underdog as well, same thing. So another one to add to the cards there. Zach LaVine, under 30.5 PRAs today. Ayo Dosunmu, you're getting EV, 16% EV rounded up, 15.6. Under 17.5 here. That one looks good. DraftKings Sportsbook. I do try to stop. Making fellas happy in particular. Every man here has to leave with a smile. That's what I always say. I'll click buttons so every man's happy. Andre Drummond, over 25.5 has plus EV here. Really good one to take on Underdog. The higher of 25.5 is a 13.4% EV. You're still getting 10% EV on PrizePicks. So higher on Drummond PRAs for Pick'ems looks pretty good. Man, you are getting, this is a lot of EV, guys. I shouldn't be showing you everything, but we'll look at all these. I'll cut it off here. Under EV on Paolo Banchero, under 41.5, DraftKings Sportsbook, minus 120 odds. It gives you 11.7% EV. Still 5% EV on PrizePicks and Underdog on under 40.5 for their lines. They're pricing you up a little bit there. Again, DK Sportsbook remaining a lot softer than FanDuel Sportsbook so far to start the NBA year. We got Jimmy Butler. I forgot to run the conditional projections video. Guys, hold on. I know we got some people tuning in right now, but I got to do what I promised here. We got to run the unabated conditional projections video here at halfway through. So let's do it. I'll narrate it. I can't believe how good these projections are. Do you like screens? You like zooming? You like zooming on screens? Conditional projections. DeJounte Murray in? Not today, buddy. Take him out. Let's run some sims. Get out of here, DeJounte Murray. You broke your hand. Real-time NBA news. Don't go to Twitter. Elon Musk, a dick face. You like graphs? Oh, we're going to show you some graphs. Go to Unabated and get the sickest mountain graph you can find. What does this graph mean? You don't even need to know. It's a good graph. Community. Can't spell community without cum. Oh, they're good. This is day 3 of doing a video for Unabated. Count your money. Count your money. They're probably not going to be happy with that one. Hopefully they don't know. Hopefully they don't know. But hey, I'm glad you've got a smile. I'm glad Sotex has a smile. Probably it was before I did that ad video. We try to have fun with it. What are we going to do here? Jalen Suggs, under looking profitable today. Actually, I skipped over Jimmy Butler. Jimmy Butler, under 28.5 PRA is looking profitable. 11.1% EV on Underdog in particular. Underdog and PrizePicks at the same line, under 28.5 or lower. 28.5 for both. Jalen Suggs, lower on 22.5 or under, some could say. 10.7% EV, a little bit less on PrizePicks. Still pretty good Underdog as well. And again, DK Sportsbook, soft. Kobe White under. Man, this is a lot of PRAs. You got the idea here. You can see the screen. You can read. You guys know. You guys are smart. Let's look at rebounds. At this point, I think we've already built the card. So I don't know. We need to keep doing more, but hey, why not? Oh, good. Now Sotex is really smiling. Thank you, Sotex. I appreciate that. And I appreciate Sotex following me over from the Stokastic streams. Look, every day, guys, before the deeper dive, I'd made sure to put this in a way where like I'm competing against Unabated's premium stream. So if you're paying for Unabated, you might want to watch that. But I tried to make sure I'm not competing with anything really at 4 o'clock. So 4 o'clock every day. We're going to keep making it work. And I knew you would, Tyler. I know you would. You got Nikola Vucevic here. And yes, and I agree with the second part as well. Nikola Vucevic, under 10.5 rebounds. It's got 18.3% value. Looks good on an Underdog pick'em. Looks also good on DK Sportsbook. You can see 17.4%. Oh, it's behind me. Never mind. So you can't see it. 17.4% EV. Actually, even plus EV on Pinnacle. So Pinnacle's lines maybe need to tighten up too. Patrick Williams, under 4.5 rebounds. 15.1% EV on that. Jalen Suggs, under 3.5 rebounds, 11% EV on that. Paolo Banchero, under 8.5 rebounds, 9% EV on that one, available on Underdog too. And Zach LaVine, under 4.5 rebounds, 6.5% EV, and that one's mostly on DK Sportsbook. We'll look at assists real fast here, because why not? But again, go check it Unabated if you want to state it for yourself. It's time to get back in NBA. I agree. NBA props. Look, this tool is going to be better than a lot of ones out there. Of course, there's a lot of great tools out in the space for sure. Don't want to undercut anybody's, but I've played with a lot, especially after building probably. Like I've seen a lot of different stuff out there. There isn't always a lot of tools that like make me go, this is really cool. This is really interesting. This is one of those tools where I think it is really cool and really interesting. So full credit to Unabated for what they've been doing with their tool. No pun. Pause. Assist props, under 1.5 assists for Alex Sara, 30% EV, a sim EV that is, but for PrizePicks, you are getting a lot of EV on that one. So under 1.5 rebounds or under 1.5 assists for Alex Sara. Alex Sara, by the way, one of the worst top 5 picks. I'm so unimpressed by him. He looks like a basketball player, then he plays basketball. And it's like, what's this guy fucking doing? Ayo Dosunmu, under 3.5 assists, also plus EV, just not getting enough usage overall. 26.5 minutes is the projection though. So the Dosunmu, I'd worried about this one, but the sim here looks pretty good as part of an Underdog pick'em. 15% EV on that. Bilal Coulibaly, 10% EV on over 2.5 assists for him at minus 105 odds. Kelly Oubre, over 1.5 assists for him, 9.4% EV at minus 166 odds. So a lot of juice on that one, but still plus EV. Jalen Suggs, under 3.5 assists, 8.1% EV on that one at plus money. Take this one, plus money odds, even though I love Suggs. I would take the plus money bet if it has plus EV on it. We got Bub Carrington here, plus 7% EV on under 3.5 assists for him. You guys have enough to build the card at this point. I hope at this point. So guys, check out Unabated. Really thank them very much for helping me put on the show every day. Check out the DraftKings Network article that I wrote about Josh Hart. It's not that long if you want to do that. But make sure to hit the like button and subscribe, guys. I'm doing the work here every day, doing the best I can to give you guys as quick and thorough still of a view on an NBA slate as I possibly can. So I make my own data. I also trust the data from Unabated, the data from Stokastic. So please take advantage of those too, but come here, hang out with me every day at 4 p.m. and I'll do it for you right here. I'll whip it out and show you all my data. But Stokastic, 15% off for them. Check that out. Link in the description for all their NBA data. All their other deals are done now, so make sure to take advantage of that one. If they have the Millie one going, it has nothing to do with NBA. Unabated, $30 off all their packages as well. That prop tool I use on the screen. You can see how fast it is to send that stuff out and be able to transact bets. That's what the goal is here. It's why I thought this product is one I need to work with for the year, in addition to them paying me. So they're very generously. Thank you for that. But please go check out Unabated. Really a great tool. I've been impressed by it. And of course, I'll be doing stuff with them every single day here on the stream. Make sure to gamble responsibly, even though it's always money time. And guys, I'll be back in 13 minutes on the Stokastic YouTube channel doing the deeper dive with Josh Engelman. So pretend all my takes are new and interesting when you hear them then. I'll see you guys over there in a few moments. And hey, let me check the chats real fast. All right, there we go. Nice stuff in there. Appreciate you guys being here. I'll be back tomorrow at 4. Enjoy your days. And of course, good luck. Bye-bye.